What's going on, fam? I have Jeremy Delk with us this week, and this is a guy who has had $10 million exits. He has invested in dozens of companies, and from an angel investment to a boots on the ground type structure. This is a guy who has been in the trenches. This isn't a guy who's a fluffy guru who's going to yell at you through the screen and give you the 17 reasons and bullet points and step by step. No, no, no. This is a guy who's going to tell you exactly what it's like to fail, how bad it's going to hurt, and what you need to do when that happens in order to have that $10 million exit one day. Hopefully you listen. Jeremy Delk at jeremydelk.com. See you soon, friends.
What's up, Convicted Mindset fam? We've got a gem today. Jeremy Delk is with us, and I don't want to skip over an overview because we're going to dive in. But when you go to this man's website, you're going to see all the stuff that everybody wants. You're going to see the Forbes mentions. You're going to see the Entrepreneur, the Inc. 500, all of the stuff that we grind every single day and week and month and year for the accolades. However, the coolest thing about this man's website was the very first word that's on there, and that's the word father. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Travis. Really appreciate it.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. So, in short, you've developed several dozen companies, hundreds of millions of dollars, monster exits, and a boatload of people that we just talked about that are employed because of your efforts, right? And so what I want to focus on, all that's great, right? You've got the cars, the vision, the life, the Lambos, all that stuff. Let's talk about the adversity and the authenticity in a world that's filled full of likes. How do you keep going when it gets tough, brother?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first thing I would tell you is that, like, what that website is, and I mean, you have to have one. Your marketing guys get you to do it, and you go through it. But I mean, that's basically there's like an old comedy skit. I think that I think it was Chris Rock, right? It's like when you start first dating a girl, man, like they're not meeting you, they're meeting your representative, right? I mean, that's basically just not me, it's your representative that you're going out there. And look, those things are great, right? I mean, the awards and Inc. 500, all that stuff is good, and that's like your shop front window. But it's all bullshit, man. And I say that because I don't want to discount them at all. But there's no fucking takeaways there. I'm not smart because I have that. That what you see there is the product of getting my ass kicked for 20 something years and fucking just re-upping. That's it. Like I'm not a genius, but what I've been able to do is like, hey, try to learn from a lesson when you get knocked down, and then what is this, and try to do better the next time and go forward. That's really it. I mean, that's my unfair advantage. I've got all these experiences because I failed a ton, man, and that's really what I talk about is that conviction of embracing failure and really kind of diving in. That's it. Again, I feel good about it, but those things. Mm-hmm. You get there, it's like a gas station, man. You get where you need to go, fill up, and just fucking keep on going down the road. It's not a destination.
No, it's the truth. But it's interesting you say that because we live in this world, and we talked about it before we jumped on, that everybody's focused on these 15-second reels that they think is real.
Yeah.
And it's not. It just isn't. It isn't. So my question for you is, talk to the guy that's just starting out, the guy that goes, okay, I have to have the website, but I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Yeah, I think there's so many problems with that, right? I mean, the first piece is you're faking it, dude. Like that shit's you can spot a mile away. I mean, you really can, and you could fake it if you're trying to do business or just around your friends, man. You have to be your true authentic self and who you are, and that's what people want. Like that's truly what they want. I lived in, I'm a Kentucky kid. I live in New York. I say fuck, cunt, all kind. I mean, I curse. Like I do that to anyone. I don't have a filter. I have good intentions though. I mean well. I'm loyal. I would give even the shirt off my back. I've done the right thing enough that people accept me for who I am. And if they don't accept me, fuck them, right? That's okay. That's your choice. Mm-hmm. But that has gotten me so far. I mean, I've sold companies for tens of millions of dollars, had $100 million exits, and I got them in a boardroom wearing a t-shirt or a hoodie, speaking like I'm speaking to you. There's a level of connection where people will see like, wow, that guy is authentic. I'm not, and I can be articulate. I've been on a board of public companies. So I know how to play the game. So don't get me wrong, but there, especially when you get comfortable with your own skin, that's really where you kind of find the magic, because you're not worried about what someone else is going to think. You can now think clearly of like, what do I want to do here? Why do I want to do it? That's the biggest piece. It shouldn't be for the cars or the watches or the other shit. It's like, why do I want to do this? It needs to be like, what's your why, right? You mentioned father. That's the most important thing to me. I'm a dad. I'm a provider. Like, that's my why, right? I want to try and do as much as I can to have experiences and freedoms to allow me to enjoy like that. That's my why. Then if I can make a bigger impact, whether it's a company or a passion project I'm involved in, that's it. But fake it till you make it, dude. I couldn't give you, that's the worst advice that I could ever, see someone taking, because I don't know when, but it will fail, and it will definitely cause you more harm than good. Cause you're going to maybe miss some opportunities that someone can see that and spot that. Like, you know what, this guy's just not for me.
Yeah. I got to talk to a room of these young entrepreneurs at the local college recently, and they're all excited and they're trying to figure out business 101. And I said, one of the things I think that people are afraid about with failure is they're afraid to fail because of how they treated people on the way up.
That's good.
And I think when you really look at that, like if my scars are authentic. I talk with people all the time, and people go in, and I'm sure you get this as well. Like, man, Jeremy, everybody, you're plugged in here, plugged in there. And you're like, I got 2 decades of scars on my back to show you how I got plugged in.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And yeah, that's powerful. And you don't have to second guess yourself, right? Because like, then you can't be really focused. If you're in a meeting or meeting someone face to face, you don't have to worry like, well, who am I being for this person? You just be yourself. It's an easier, peaceful way to live, man. Like, it's so easy. I mean, it's complicated. I mean, it's maybe a hard thing to concept, because and again, I can go into a whole thing psychologically in therapy, but you got to love yourself, bro. You got to be happy with who you are. And if you're not, fucking change that and figure out what you're not happy about. I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands. I mean, I've spent a lot of money just reflecting on me and why I do what I do. And I'm far from a perfect human, but it's that constant kind of thing of introspective versus retrospective looking and what you are.
You think a lot of people have that tough time with failure because they really don't know themselves?
I think it's a societal thing, right? I mean, look at school. I think there's so many pieces that are there, that society would tell us, failure is a bad thing. You get a F in school, or you fail at math. Like, it's all bullshit, in my opinion, right? I mean, I think, are you putting in the effort? Are you trying? Are you failing because you're not trying? That's a different thing, right? Or you're having struggle with it, or you made something good at this skill set or that skill set. Failure is where, my kids, like, before we spent all this money for the school, one of their headlines is like, we encourage failure. Like, fucking sold. I don't care how much it is. I'll write you the check, because that's where the learning happens. Like, that's actually when you really learn. And otherwise, like, I invest in companies, I coach businesses, I do other things. If someone hasn't been through a cycle, you come to me like, hey, my name's Jeremy. I've got a 7 out of 7 business strike rate. I don't fail. I just execute. I'm a fucking gun. First off, they're lying, right? And let's pretend they're not. Then they don't know how to actually handle the failures. And that's when you really kind of, that's when you really know what you have, right? Tyson says, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the fucking face. Like, that's a reality. And it's how you react and, respond to that adversity and that failure is what separates the real winners long-term from the flybys.
Yeah. That response, that moment that you have in between on how you respond to adversity. And so when I think about you and what you've done in your career, one word for me comes to mind, and that word's disruption. I think that you've done a great job, whether it's healthcare or other industries you've been involved with. What do you look for as an entrepreneur, as an investor? What do you look for to disrupt? And what are you looking for right now?
So that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that my strategy has always been just to disrupt things. But where I've found nearly all of my where I found that's maybe true too. Where I found so much of my success is via disruption, right? So I would go into and present an opportunity, and as you mentioned, I was in building materials, manufacturing construction products in Italy and Germany to healthcare to consumer goods, technology. I've been all over the place. So there's not a roadmap to where I went into industry wise. It's being open to ideas, things that excite me. I love learning. I think that's really why I'm an entrepreneur. I love the creative learning piece. Once I build a business and it's just kind of going, I may keep it, I may sell it, but I'm not active in that business anymore. I really want to go to where the dumpster fires are, where the opportunity, where I can really kind of get my hands dirty. But the success has come through looking at focusing on customers and really, and I think I've proved this, that, industry agnostic, business is business is business. And some component, people are buying from people, right? That's B2B, B2C, direct to consumer, whatever it is, there is that relationship with the consumer component. And if you focus on that, and that's your North Star, it tends to not really matter what your industry is. Healthcare, and I'm only hoping maybe a small part of it, but look at healthcare. It's a 3P system, right? It's a payer, right? Insurance company, provider, doctor, third P is the patient. The patient is a fucking 2/5 of fuck all. They have no say in the majority of the system. It's what's the payer and provider going to go through. And then, yeah, of course the patients are going to go there, but they have to follow. When's the last time you need an MRI? Can't get an MRI because you got to go get an X-ray first, because that's the system. So what we did with one of our integrative health businesses that I recently exited, it's, hey, here's a crazy concept. How about a patient maybe pay more, private pay to a physician, and let those two talk, right? So the patient's now the payer with the provider, and then you have that new piece. So that's just looking at it's so basic, right? But it's looking at that basic disruption of really putting the customer first. That's allowed me to really make a difference. So I don't necessarily care of how things have been done. In fact, I try to ignore how they've been done and just try to do it my own unique way.
That's brilliant. You see any opportunities over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. Look, I think, in any time there's unsettling times or corrections, inflationary indicators are going crazy. Interest rates are hiking. I'm excited. Like, this is an opportunity. Yeah. Something's going to happen. So, but that's just me. I'm not a glass half full or half empty. I'm a glass runneth over guy full time. So I am always excited, but this is when opportunities really kind of start to manifest. So we're looking, I was just at a lunch deal the other day. A guy's got a small fund here in town, and they're looking at, what you can do impactful on, housing and affordable housing at scale, right? From a technology standpoint, because that's something that's happening, right? We talked before we went live, right? Just you reload from Cali to Boise. I'm in Kentucky. We're in maybe different sectors, but right now, you've got a couple properties. I've got a couple properties, but these millennials, these guys are coming out of school. It's hard for them to, find housing. And then the concept of where they want to live is different. They don't necessarily want a 3 or 4 bedroom house with a white picket fence, right? Communal living. So there's this whole new shift that's coming that I think technology will play a big part of. And that's something that's really interesting to me. I think coming off the back of this global pandemic, we've still yet to see, it's probably another 2 or 3 years out, the true psychological effects, especially with mothers that just had newborns, or even the kids that are, COVID babies that haven't had that, human interaction. We starve for that, right? Apple, right? iTunes, we can all listen to music, but is listening to music on your iPhone as good as going to a fucking concert? No, right? What is that? It's we strive as humans, we strive that connectivity, that interaction, that kind of going back to conferences, those types of pieces. So anything that you can do to help bring that touching experience back and that sense of community, I think is a huge opportunity there as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Last week, my wife and I went to Kenny Chesney in concert.
Love Kenny.
Incredible concert, by the way. Awesome show that he put on. And then last Saturday, we went to a classic car show, and both of those events were the highest attended events in their histories.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's something we've missed, man. It's weird times, right? You've been around. I'm 42. It was like, yeah, it was a weird time, but I think those are
such a weird time.
Yeah. But yeah, so now, today I'm looking at, all kinds of different things. I've got a buddy who speaks a lot, and I know him from the marketing world. He was Roland Frazier, and we were out at a conference in Beverly Hills. He was like, Jeremy, you don't value what you know because you know it. And I took that to heart. It's kind of led me. I'm working on a book that's coming out here in November, which is a therapy. If you want to have therapy, you can't afford a therapist, write a fucking book and you'll get some, you'll get some stuff out there. But, I've really kind of found this new passion of, I'm trying to help coach entrepreneurs. I'm coaching business owners, and just to really kind of help, be more of a sounding board and bounce ideas off of, to kind of go through. Cause so many of these people I've seen, whether they're at different varying stages in the business, they've got the idea that's just going to change the world, but they've had the idea and they haven't done anything with it because they're scared. Like, I just try to get what is it? Like, what are you waiting for? Yeah. And if you're not like me or you that just goes all in, fine. Let's set a thing just to get you these micro wins to kind of just starting, but just get started is all I say. Like, it's everything else is bullshit. The title of my book is literally called Without a Plan. And I've shown you 20 years of how I got all that shit on the website, literally with just getting going. Cause you don't, what's the point of a plan, right? I've had all kinds of businesses, big exits. They never go exactly to plan. Who planned for COVID to happen, right? You just get started. You get started. You have better information than when you're there at that crossroads and make decisions. So I try to really encourage people to kind of do that. Or if they're already in business and, hey, they want to come up with a new product extension or make the hire, I really try to push them to just get going. What's going to happen? You may fail. Okay. Let's explore that. What's that look like? What happens? And then you start, having those conversations. Like, oh, fuck, really nothing. Right. And then they show
really not that bad.
That goes through. And if you fail, great, cool. Fail fast. Yeah. Right. Try to get there and fail fast.
Fail often.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the truth, man. And there's a point in life, like you've got a little one, I've got a couple little ones, and there's a point where we encourage them to fail, right? You don't have that little one that starts to walk and starts to crawl and starts to move around, and you go, hey, because you fell down 4 or 5 times, this whole walking thing's not for you.
Man, so I had like a really struggling dad moment. Cause I don't look, I mean, I'm one guy at work, and, vision leader, always strong. And you hear I speak, so I'm pretty vocal, but with my kids, I'm, they just want to be nurturing, what have you. And, you teach your kids to ride a bike. It's a rite of passage. And my son was, he's almost 9 now. He was like 6. And dude, he was struggling with it. And like, he just like going through, and I could see it was just fear. And I was like, I was like losing my patience, which I rarely ever do. I'm like, Graham, what are you scared of? Are you scared of falling? And he's like, yes. I'm like, okay. Are you scared of falling because it's going to hurt? And he said, yes. I'm like, well, good news. You're going to fall and it's going to hurt. But remember, then we actually just came back from Disney, and he like loves roller coasters now. At that point, I'm like, remember how scared you were, but now you love them. I'm like, it's going to suck. Daddy used to get you remember how you get back in the day when they didn't have the chain guards, you get your shoestring sucked in and go down. They don't do that now. That was the worst. But you go through that. I'm like, dude, that all happened. I skinned up my knees and it sucked. Yeah. How much fun I had. So do you want to compromise that little bit of fear that you have right now that could cost you all of this enjoyment? And he started riding his bike that day. Now he's racing go-karts going 60 miles an hour around corners. So like, you just have to, speak to them. I think kids are, they're just little humans. You just got to kind of rationalize with them and say, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? And let's just embrace it, man, and learn. And hey, that we like that, we didn't like this. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I love the fact that you talk about failure. Like we said before we started, I think so much of what we see on the internet is just a bunch of lies. It's the highlight reel of the 15 seconds of the 90 days. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, you look at like these influencers and these gurus as you kind of talk to them, like, if anyone is like, making, their money by telling someone else how to do something, there's some red flags there, right? Like, like
huge.
There's so many red flags. Like, hey, like, I try and teach and try to talk to my people, but this is what I've done, or this is what I'm actually doing, right? And I have fucking problems every day. Like I've got different challenges that go through that you're always dealing with. But that's where the value comes from. Is it not like, it's not theory. I speak at universities too, and I reluctantly do it, but I do it because I fucking feel bad for the students, because like these entrepreneurs teachers have never fucking done anything in their lives. And I'm like, dude,
Ever.
I have to like save them. But I'm like, this is not theory, guys. I've done this and I failed massively. Like, I used to be a Wall Street guy, lost all on Wall Street in 4 days.
Yes.
I've done all those things, but I really believe, forget about running towards failure, that, in life, especially in business and most times actually in personal, there's no such thing as a good or a bad thing that happens to you. It's just simply an event, but it's then the emotions and the actions that you apply to said event that will determine the outcome, whether it's a positive or negative. And I think that's something that's hard. It's with practice, it gets easier, but it's hard to do, right? You've got this thing, oh my God, the world's ending. We've all had these things, right? Every one of your listeners has thought about that business or the relationship, that thing that just like soul crushing, worst thing that could ever happen. But guess what? You're still here listening to this podcast. Like, you still survive. I mean, humans are pretty vigilant animals, right? We can survive a lot and stand a lot emotionally. And you just have to remember that and have to remove the emotion and just move forward, right? Because that's it.
And there's a vast majority of things, I would say almost all of them, the things that keep you up at night that you're freaked out about, that rarely ever happen. Rarely.
Right. Well, I mean, but who cares? Like, what can you, like, control what you can control? It's
there it is.
What if it does? Okay, cool. That'll suck. I get people in my office get like annoyed with me. We'll have like a manufacturer go down or a lawsuit come through, and I just laugh at shit, and they just like, you're actually mad. Like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's going to be funny how the story ends, how it's going to work out. And think about that, right? The worst thing that ever happened, and then always something else kind of comes through the other angle or goes through. So I just kind of laugh as it's like a movie. Like, oh well. It's gonna be interesting to see how this actually plays out. They're like, aren't you freaking out? I'm like, what are you freaking out about? Like, you just go with it.
Can't control it. Can't control the outcome. It shouldn't take up space in my brain, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you can control it, all of the woulda, shoulda, couldas, or what ifs are not helpful. I mean, you can feel bad for yourself, but how long you gonna go in the corner, fucking go pal? Like, go do that. If that's like your process, go do it. But just know, if it takes you an hour or a day, that's a complete waste of time that you could be applying to the actual solution.
That's facts right there. That's facts. When you look at like a lot of your success over the years, how much do you think that your routine on a daily basis plays into that success?
Look, I think it does. I mean, I think routines are just natural. You either have good routines or bad routines. I mean, I think I really, and this is probably coming off the book, it just gets so fresh in my head, but I think I really center in the biggest part of my success with my dad died when I was 7. And like, everyone loses someone. It's a shitty deal, but I struggled with that for a good part of fucking 30 years. And never really understood what it was, right? That's kind of going through. And again, a lot of therapy, a lot of kind of, retrospectively looking, but there was a lot of lessons there. But one of those biggest lessons were, and this is true, and we so fucking often forget it. Coming off this pandemic, we forget it. We're not promised tomorrow, man. Like, none of us are, right? You are not promised tomorrow, period, full stop. You want to go play flag football with your kids or go karting, like I'm taking my son this week. You want to go do that? Go and fucking do it right now. Putting things off, going through that. So I try to really apply my life. I say yes to a lot of things. I invest in a lot of businesses. Most of them fail. I start a bunch of businesses. Most of them fail. The winners have historically, last 20-something years have done better and outpaced the losers. But if I'm interested in it, if I'm passionate about something, kids, work, family, love, just say yes, man. And just do it. Cause it's a game that you only get to play once, this thing called life, and you don't know when the clock's ending.
Are you currently taking on any clients or looking for any investments? If guys out there are looking, they've got a company that they're trying to exit or they're trying to look for a mentor for.
Yeah. I mean, we've got like a thing you can do a free call with me or something. It's the website's pretty easy. It's jeremydelk.com, but I'm looking if your business is like, hey, I'm doing 10 million and I want to do 12, like, I'm not your guy. I mean, I'll give you some tips, but I really want to help someone that's on that level of, hey, they haven't got started yet, or they're really at that big piece. They want to go to 10 to 100, or like really want to make some kind of real impactful things. I like to do that work because that's where I'm good at, right? There's a million people that, and you can do, like, Google is your friend, man. You can get the information for free of how to scale and how to cut costs and increase margins, all those pieces. That stuff you can get for free. Like my passion right now is helping people kind of get out of their own way and make a big impact. And a lot of that has been for me wanting to learn, but also it's been fun because I've got good deal flow, right? So it's led to opportunities for me to become an investor or a board member or an advisor or put a deal together. I mean, I'm fortunate to see a lot of deal flow, which is a lot of fun. So, we're working on everything from this affordable housing thing to something for senior living down in Florida, and then to a deal called Easy Turn, which is like flipping, it's like doing the conversions. Like we're in Lexington, University of Kentucky. So you have all these thousands of kids that go to school here, then they go home for the summer and probably moving off campus. You have all these dorms to change. So they've got to change and turn over these dorms in a very short window of time. So off student housing. So that's a software play that I'm looking at taking a piece on. So I'm, again, industry agnostic. Business is business. And if I can, put something together or, work on it, I feel like I can add value and have fun with. I love looking at them.
I love that. Let's go a little deep. Lastly, when you talked about the 30-some years of the pain with your father passing away, people listening to this who have gone through some incredible trauma, what was like an aha moment for you where you were able to take what was pain and turn it into what's led you to be great?
Well, I mean, I think, I think it was, for me, I was doing it. So I think you have a path, right? I mean, I think, someone could have that trauma and, it was we had a lot of stability to a lot of instability, and I could have turned them into bad things. I could have turned them to drugs. I could have turned them into other things. For me, it was like, in hindsight, in therapy, it was actually not my mom. It wasn't my dad dying that I was so dealt with. I was, again, no spoiler. I'll give you, I'll try and get a link out to you, and I'll give like the first 2 chapters of my book to you so people can look at it. But there was a component I was supposed to be on that bike with my dad. So I think that probably anchored the component of, you're not promised to tomorrow, because I struggled with that shit a lot, right, for a long time. And then I think the next piece was not as much of like losing my dad as what I saw happen to my mom, right? And that level of instability that kind of go through. So that for me anchored in. I mean, I was day trading at fucking 17 years old. I was fucking hustling fucking vacuum cleaners, $800 vacuum cleaners called Rainbow vacuum cleaners at 15. That just sent something into me that I wanted to have this freedom, this, stability that I wanted to do. And I wanted to be there for my mom because my dad couldn't. So I don't know if that answers your question, but like that for me is what happened for me, but that's my story. And I think that everyone has their own, but it's your choice, dude. Like when I went bust, like I could have, I went to a school in New England and got out of small town USA. I could have went home with my mom, and it still would have been a good story. Like, hey man, young kid made it out of small town USA, made a couple million, lost it, and fucking moved back home. It could have been my story. I just chose for it not to be. And we all have that choice, right? But feeling bad for yourself and kind of going through it, we all have trauma. We all have things that kind of happen to us, or for us. I think is probably a better way. Some people say that it happened to you, it happened for you. I would argue it's the latter. I think they're offering for you, and really, hopefully, life gives you some of these lessons, and you need to kind of learn and take from there.
I love that. Your book's coming out in November?
Yeah, November 8th. It's called Without a Plan, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. So it's applicable to your thing. And I think the idea is like, the big takeaway I put in the intro is like, hey, it's not all bullshit. To your point, like, hey, it's not gurus. Like, this isn't a theory. This isn't a 17-point plan that if you do this, this, and this, like, this is like, hey, man, this is what I did. You're going to read about a bunch of companies that have done pretty well, that have all survived me. And I did them with not necessarily having a fucking clue what I had to do. And that was positive, because if I would have got into the building material business, I would have just been this big distributor. I would have never been my own manufacturer. So setting a goal could be the wrong fucking goal. Having a dream could be the wrong fucking dream. Just get going. You don't know where it's going to take you.
That's so good. That's so good. I love that, brother. I appreciate it so much. Jeremy Delk, jeremydelk.com. If you're looking for someone to take you to the next level, or just looking for a daily dose of inspiration on Instagram, be sure to reach out to him. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, and I know everybody else as well. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Have an awesome day.
Too.